Welcome back to Spill the TXC with me, your host, Amber. If you caught the end of last week's episode, you will notice that I briefly dipped a toe into what we're diving headfirst into today, the dark web. And when I say briefly dipped a toe, I mean very, very briefly, because there's no way you can summarize the dark web in just a few sentences. For those of you that don't know, the dark web is a hidden corner of the internet, an encrypted network layered beneath what we use every single day. It's where being anonymous isn't just encouraged, it's required. A place where transactions happen through cryptocurrency, where identities are masked, where your IP address is bounced around so many times through the Tor browser that you are practically untraceable. If you're doing it right. And if you're not doing it right, well then you're traceable to everybody. And in that world, that's a very dangerous position to be in. It sounds complicated, doesn't it? Technical and even intimidating. But the truth is, access isn't some impossible hacker ritual. With a VPN and a Tor browser, you're in, just like that. But here's the thing, you need to know who you're playing with. The people who are playing in those spaces are experienced. They understand encryption, they understand manipulation, and they know how to get what they want. And when a new face shows up, they notice. They always notice. The dark web isn't like the normal internet where you Google something and you get neat, organized results. Imagine a hallway with loads of different doors. And you go through door after door, and every time you go through a door, you're faced with a new hallway, with new doors. That's what it's like, but the doors are links. So you're going through link after link after link, just clicking aimlessly because you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going to end up. But when you do finally land somewhere, when that page finally loads, you're not alone. You're virtually surrounded by people who know exactly where they are. People who understand this environment. People who created this environment. And people who will absolutely make it their business to find out who you are and why you're there. Which brings me to a story that I heard years ago. Now I have actually had a look online and I can't find anything on this story, so I'm going to tell you from memory, so bear with me. But before we start, massive trigger warning. If you're listening to this episode on your own at night time, stop. Save it and come back to it. Because once we step through this door, there is no unhearing what's on the other side. Years ago, I used to work with this guy and he told me that this happened to his friend. Now, I don't know how true that is because I am extremely guilty of hearing a story and passing it on to the next person as my friend, because it just sounds more plausible that way, doesn't it? So I don't know if this really was his friend or not, which is why I tried to look the story up online. Couldn't find anything, so maybe it was his friend, who knows? But it's a bloody good story. So for the sake of this story, I'm going to call the friend Jimmy. Jimmy was extremely interested in the dark web. He had been researching it, talking about it with his friendship group for a long time. And no one else was really that interested, so nobody really engaged too much. He didn't have anybody to share this interest with. And one day he decided to just bite the bullet, download the Tor browser, get the VPN, and sign on to the dark web. And that's exactly what he did. So here he is with a page in front of him that is just presented with link after link after link. He's got so many choices, but he doesn't know what each of these links lead to. What is that? What are you doing? Do you want to come up? Come in. Oops. Okay. Co-hosting with me today is Stanley Moon. So he's presented with this page, which is just link after link after link after link. Imagine you've searched something in Google and all of the results come up. It's kind of like that, but it's all different links. You don't know what you're clicking on. And then he's presented with a new page full of new links. So this is the metaphorical hallway that I'm talking about, and all of the links are the doors. He's clicking, clicking, clicking. And then he finally ends up in a room. He is at the back of a long room. And at the other side of the room, he can see a man. But he can see the back of a man. The man's sitting at a computer and he can kind of see the kind of corners of the computer from around the man. He was a large man in a vest and shorts or pants. And he's just sitting there on his computer, and the guy, Jimmy, is looking through the screen at the back of this man. And then the camera starts to move very, very slowly towards the back of the man. So Jimmy's watching as we get closer and closer. And as he's getting closer, he can see details of the man. Like his vest is stained. He looks dirty. His hair is greasy. He's got stains all over him. Even the chair he's sitting in is a little bit torn. And as Jimmy gets closer, he can start to hear the man. He's hearing his heavy breathing. Every now and then he hears a little chuckle from the man, like this low, raspy chuckle. And then he gets close enough to be able to see what's going on in the kind of outskirts of the computer screen. And he can see that this man is looking into another room. So Jimmy's then thinking this is some kind of mirror effects, like we're all watching someone, watching someone, watching someone. And then the camera gets closer and kind of leans over the man's shoulder as he's doing that low, raspy chuckle. And Jimmy sees himself staring back at the screen. And then he notices that his webcam light is on. He's watching this man watch him. And if you don't know what that means this man has traced his IP address to be able to tap into his webcam. So Jimmy forces his laptop to shut down, slams it shut, and vows never to go back on the dark web again. But it didn't end there, because the next day he received a letter. When he opened it, he found a picture of himself just looking at his computer screen, and scribbled on the back were the words, "Consider this your warning." And he did. He did consider that his warning, because they had shown that they knew where he lived. They had shown that they could tap into his laptop. They had shown that there is nothing that could hold them back. I've got a story that was sent to me from Creepypasta here, and it's called My Journey to the Dark Web, and I have briefly read through some of this, and it's very interesting, so I think we're going to enjoy this one together. Just as a side note, I am so interested in stories from the dark web, and I would be more than happy to do a second episode on this topic, so if you do have any dark web stories, send them straight to me at toxicstories@outlook.com. I'm a computer technician by profession. I worked for a company that was contracted by local businesses and private consumers to set up internet connections, install software, and repair any sort of computer problems they can come up with. So naturally, I got all the crazy stories and problems that these people could come up with. I swear, some of them just don't know how to work a computer, even in this day and age. Anyway, one day I get a call from a local business complaining that their internet connection was acting up and that they must have a virus. So I shook my head, thinking that someone must have unplugged a network cable or downloaded a Trojan horse accidentally. I got up, drove over to the business to address the problem. As soon as I arrived, the man who called me immediately spotted me and started going on and on about hackers and how much he hated Microsoft Windows and how many viruses it created and all that nonsense that I usually received when addressing business problems. He led me to his computer, and I pulled out my laptop and sat down in front of it and began to work. He told me, "Good luck," and walked away to do whatever it was he did in his downtime. I opened up the browser he used, and it opened to About Blank. It didn't even have a home page. So I tried connecting to google.com. 404 error. Well, I know that google.com definitely existed, so there was a problem with his internet connection. I opened his network and sharing center to see if I could use the built-in troubleshooter to diagnose the problem. But I gave myself a well-deserved facepalm when I saw he wasn't connected to any network at all. So I searched for networks and found a few wireless connections for him to connect to. They're all WEP encrypted, and I was almost positive that he didn't know the key. So I broke out my laptop and ran a WEP cracking tool to get his computer up and running again. As I was waiting for my tool to find the WEP key, another network suddenly showed up on my computer. This one was unprotected with an SSID consisting of a random hexadecimal string. Now, I was extremely bored waiting for this guy to return, so I decided to connect to it and take a little look around to see where it was coming from. I connected without problems and opened up my toolkit of cracking tools to see if I could find a source for this connection. As I was having my fun hacking away at this unprotected network, my computer froze up, albeit only for a second or two, but this didn't happen much and it caught me by surprise. I shrugged it off as poor internet and kept going. A couple minutes later, however, it happened again, and a few minutes after that once again, each time getting longer and longer. Weird, I thought. What's with this network? It was then that things started to get really interesting. Over the long string of pauses, my screen flickered a little bit and out of nowhere, my browser opened by itself. Now, I was worried that I had somehow infected my computer with some kind of malware that was connecting to this network, and I proceeded to close the browser and began to disconnect from the network before anything worse could happen. But I couldn't disconnect. No matter how many times I clicked the little disconnect button, my computer didn't respond, despite everything else on my screen running fine. Fuck, I thought to myself. This is going to be a long day. And just as I was about to hit the power button on my laptop to perform a hard reset, my browser opened again. This time, with a little chat box. Hello. I stared at the screen for a couple of seconds, not quite sure what was going on. I want to talk to you. Now, I had heard about those AI programs that had these programmed responses to simulate conversations with people, and I was not impressed. This was one nasty virus. You need to leave this network now. This is your last warning. Maybe an automated security program designed to keep hackers out. I'll have to admit, I actually was impressed with it. I had never seen anything like this before. I'm telling you one last time. Leave. Now. I don't know what made me do it, but I responded to the program. Or what? The next response scared me more than anything in this world ever had. The program began listing information about me. My name, address, telephone number, credit card information, my parents' names, their address. My heart sank in my chest, and all the colour immediately left my face. I couldn't move. I just sat there, paralysed with fear. But what came next was even worse. Don't look at me like that. My webcam was on. You really shouldn't stare. You might see something you regret. Suddenly, the most horrifying images you could ever imagine flashed on my screen. Images of disemboweled humans, human sacrifice, detached limbs, cannibals eating people, video clips of mass suicides and firing lines. My heart was racing. My body was shaking in utter fear of the images I was being shown. They're seared in my brain. Those were the things that no one should ever see. I mustered the strength I had left and hit the power button on my computer and slammed it shut. I ran to the bathroom and threw up a couple of times. I was drenched in sweat. I could barely compose myself. It took me about 20 minutes to go back to my computer, and even then, I had a hard time getting near it. I looked over at my client's computer and it was connected to the wireless network I was cracking earlier. It was working fine now. Just then, my client returned and thanked me for fixing his internet. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my laptop and left. Going down the elevator with my laptop under my shoulder was terrible. I just wanted to leave that place and get my laptop replaced as soon as I could. 5th floor, 4th floor, come on. 3rd floor, 2nd floor, come on, goddammit. Ground floor, open up. And just as the doors opened, from behind me a whisper, "You really shouldn't stare." I immediately left the office building and drove back to my office. I promptly gave the laptop to my boss, telling him that it had become non-functional and that I required a replacement. I told him that someone had accidentally spilled coffee on it during my last trip and that it short-circuited, but in reality, I made a pit stop on my way back to a hardware store and bought the most powerful magnet I could find, and I ran it over the hard drive several times. I wasn't risking that thing turning on ever again. So after a few short minutes of the keep better track of your shit speech, he took the laptop and told me I'd get my replacement tomorrow. It was probably the most satisfying thing I could hear in that moment. For a few days, everything was back to normal. No more AI chat boxes, no more funky unprotected internet connections, no more disturbing images popping up on my screen. I was safe. Until the nightmares started. I remember the first one I had very vividly, and I shudder when I think about it. But I'll tell you nevertheless. It began with me walking through a large city. I remember seeing large buildings and people walking up and down the streets on their way to work or shopping, whatever it is city people do. And as I was walking, I found myself in front of a very large building, much taller than the rest. And for some reason, I wanted to go inside and take a look. So I walked through the front doors and took a look around. It was a fairly normal office building. People moving about, talking on their cell phones and whatnot, minding their own business. I realised that there really wasn't much to see here, so I turned around to leave, but something was wrong. The doors to the building were gone. I walked forward thinking that there was some new type of door that blended into the wall or something, but nothing was there. And I was very confused. So I turned back around again to maybe ask the receptionist where the exit was, but she was gone too. Everyone was gone. The lobby was completely empty. No sounds, no people, no furniture, just an empty white room. And now I was scared. I began to panic and pace around the room, looking for any way out, but there was nothing, nowhere to go. So I began to run at the walls, trying to break them down, but all of my attempts were futile. After about 4 or 5 bum rushes against the wall, I sat down out of breath, looking down at the floor. It felt like I was there for hours, just staring at the ground, when suddenly I heard a small whisper. I looked up to see a black silhouette of a man facing me. He stuck out his hand and whispered ever so slightly, "Trying to leave." For some reason I trusted this figure. Don't ask me why. Dream logic. But I felt like this figure was going to show me the way out, somehow. So I took his hand. I got up and said, "Yes. Can you show me the way?" "Of course. Follow closely." He turned around and began to hover away from me. So I followed. I don't know how, but he began to create hallways and staircases out of the room I was trapped in, leading me all sorts of ways as though it was a giant labyrinth. We climbed up and up and up until we finally reached a hallway that had a door at the end of it. It was then that he stopped moving and turned back towards me. I could make out a faint smile on his face as he pointed towards the door. "Is this the exit?" "It is." I was so happy to finally get out of this place, so I grabbed the door handle and began to turn it as he placed his hand on my shoulder. I turned to look at him, and his words made my heart race to this day. "But remember, you shouldn't ever stare." My eyes widened as his face began to morph into that of a horrible horned creature. His teeth became like razors, and his mouth was filled with fire. I threw him off me and opened the door, only to find my worst fears behind it. Dead people were hanging from the ceiling, and blood covered the room like wallpaper. I screamed out, but nothing came out. I turned away from the room and ran as fast as I could back the way I came, but it was not long before I realized that I was hopelessly lost in this labyrinth that the demon had led me through. I ran and ran, but couldn't find a way out. There was no way out. I was trapped in this nightmare. I started hurling myself at the walls in an attempt to leave this evil place, but nothing was working. I thought I was going to die here, and that was when I awoke. I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing and my breathing was heavy. I looked around and it took me a couple of minutes to realize that it was just a nightmare. A horrible, horrible nightmare. I got up and out of bed and walked over to my bathroom to wash myself of all the sweat I had just doused myself in. As I washed my face, I noticed something in the mirror. A small light coming from my room. I turned around and I saw it, sitting at the foot of my bed, my personal computer. I slowly walked over to examine it, thinking maybe I had accidentally left it on before going to bed, which I rarely do. So I bent down and picked it up. Command prompt was open, but it was blank. No prompt or anything, just that little black box with the white cursor flashing at me. It was then that I remembered that I didn't even use my computer before going to bed. In fact, I had left it in the kitchen. My webcam light turned on. Command prompt began to type. "What's the matter? Bad dream?" Now, immediately after seeing what had appeared on my screen, I did what anyone else would have done. I removed the battery from my computer, threw it into a safe that I kept in my bedroom and locked it tight. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, paralyzed with fear. This was no ordinary nightmare. This was real. For the next few days, I had the same nightmare every night, each time as traumatizing as the first. And worst of all, each time after waking up, I could hear my laptop fan inside the safe. I knew what it was doing, but I never looked. I didn't want to see that message again. I didn't want to scar myself even further. After 3 nights of experiencing that terrible nightmare, I stopped sleeping. I couldn't see those horrible images anymore. I couldn't face that demon anymore. It was too much for me. I kept myself up with caffeine and vitamin B. My motor functions declined and my cognitive ability deteriorated after the 2nd consecutive night. I was so weak, so tired, so afraid. On my 3rd day of self-induced insomnia, my boss walked over to my desk and gave it to me straight. "You look like dried up dog shit, man. Go home and get some sleep." Well, that was charming. I looked up at him. I wanted to tell him so badly, but I know that if I did, he would just tell me to get my shit together and come back tomorrow. So I nodded my head in agreement, picked up my stuff, and walked out. As I was driving home, I turned on the radio to help keep me awake. I had not slept in almost 60 hours, but instead of my favorite tunes, all that came out of my car's speakers was static, just a bunch of white noise. I started changing channels, but everything was the same, just static. So I turned it off and drove home in silence. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed through my front window that there was a flickering light coming from inside my house. It was my TV. I left the damn thing on before leaving to work. I wasn't surprised though. Not sleeping for 2 consecutive nights was definitely taking a toll on me. I put the car in park and started to pull the keys out when my radio turned on again. More static. Was I hallucinating? Christ, I'm losing it. No, you're not. I almost shit my pants. Did that come from the radio? Either I've gone nuts, or that was extremely coincidental. I'm still here, you know. Holy fuck. This time I was sure that deep static voice just came out of the speakers of my car. I looked at my radio to see what station it was tuned into, but the screen was just a bunch of random symbols and letters that didn't make any sense. I started to panic. I immediately turned the car off and almost ran into my house. They couldn't follow me everywhere. I locked my computer in my safe. This couldn't be happening to me. I whipped around to look at my television, which I'd forgotten was still on. I swear I wish that the goddamn Teletubbies were on. In fact, I wish there was anything on, but there wasn't. It was just static. No sound, no signal, just static. And then out of nowhere, a huge boom. I almost fell over backwards in fear. The television sound came on with a huge bang and the static was very audible. White noise filled the room. I could feel my heart pounding as my hands began to shake. Please no. The static began to get louder and louder until I couldn't even hear myself think anymore. I covered my ears and began shouting to myself, stop it now, please. And it stopped. I looked up slowly at my television. Nothing. Black screen. It was off. I stood up slowly, still shaking from what had just happened. I walked slowly towards my television, fearing that it may turn on again and blow my eardrums out. I got right up next to the screen, reached behind my TV, and unplugged the power cord. I stared at it for a couple of seconds, hoping I had stopped them from gaining access. I backed away slowly, breathing more evenly now. I stopped it. And that's when I saw a face on my television screen. That black silhouette from my dreams. It was here. And it was real. He smiled at me with the most evil smile you could possibly imagine, and I couldn't look away. I was too afraid to move. And suddenly, he began to speak in the most frightening voice imaginable. It was deep and booming, somewhat distorted, as if he was speaking through a voice masker. It sounded like 10 voices in one, all as evil as the other. Do you fear me? I couldn't move. I said, do you fear me? My body was shaking uncontrollably. Do you know these people? The next images I saw were the most traumatizing images in my life. I saw pictures of my family, my friends, people I had met throughout my life. He had them. This couldn't be happening. I told you not to stare. And probably out of sheer adrenaline, I snapped out of feeling paralyzed and picked up a small glass bottle sitting on the table next to me and hurled it as hard as I could at the TV. Sparks went everywhere, shattered glass covered the floor. I looked up at the TV and it was broken. The screen had cracked and it was no longer functioning. The demon was gone. I mustered what strength I had left and walked up to my room. I was so tired. I fell to my knees and began to cry when suddenly I heard it. My laptop fan. I slowly raised my head and there it was, sitting on the edge of my bed. Command prompt open. Webcam on. The screen read, "That wasn't very nice." I screamed as loud as I could, "Leave me the fuck alone," and picked up my laptop and threw it out the window as hard as I could. This was going to end today. I walked over to the window I had thrown my computer out of to make sure that it was shattered. I wanted nothing to be left of it. But as I looked out of the window, I didn't see any broken laptops. I saw him looking up at me and smiling. I backed away slowly from my window. I couldn't think. I couldn't comprehend anything at that moment. He was real and he was here. I backed up into my room, slammed the door shut and sat on the floor, trying to formulate some kind of plan of escape from this thing, or more importantly, how to rid myself of this demon forever. Bang, bang, bang. I immediately stood upright. He was knocking at my front door. Again, I heard it. He wanted in. I heard him knocking over and over again, incessant pounding on my front door, always in threes. I began thinking frantically, what was I going to do? Should I stay in here? Should I get a weapon? Should I call the police? I don't know. And the knocking continued. I was pacing my room, desperately trying to think of what to do. My heart was racing, my body purely running on adrenaline at this point. And suddenly, as if perfectly on cue, the knocking stopped. I stopped pacing. Was he gone? Did he just decide to leave? I had to be sure. I slowly opened my door and looking around, nothing. I moved out of my room and towards the stairs and peeked down. Still nothing. I slowly moved down the stairs and saw my broken TV and the shattered glass on the floor. Was it over? As I made my way to the living room, I began to feel cold, very cold. I looked around to see if I could find my thermostat when something else caught my eye. My front door. It was wide open. I swear I almost had a heart attack. Was he inside? I had no way of knowing, but the first thing that came to mind was I had to close that door in case he wasn't. So I quickly moved to the door and slammed it shut. It wasn't cold anymore. I slumped down, back against the front door. I was unbearably tired and I just needed to sleep. More than anything in this world, I needed to sleep. My eyes began to close and my muscles began to relax. My breathing slowed. And right as my eyes shut and the shroud of sleep began to cover me, his face, right in front of me. My eyes snapped open to see his face right up against mine. He was staring at me, smiling. I had no strength left to do anything about it. He slowly stood up and reached out his hand. He said to me in the evil whisper of his, "Get up. I want to show you something." I shook my head in disagreement. There was no goddamn way that I was following him. He was going to force me to live that nightmare. He was going to finish killing my mind before he was going to destroy my body. I said, "Get up. You don't have a choice." All I could do was look at him. I stared into his amorphous face as if looking right through him. "You know what I can do. Now get up." He wasn't going to let me die there. He wasn't going to leave me alone. He wanted me for himself. He was right. I had no other choice. So I raised my hand up and grabbed his arm. Somehow, As if my legs were moving by themselves, I began to follow him up my staircase. He's going to torture me. We started walking towards my bedroom. The door was shut. As we were in front of my room, he pointed at my door handle, looked at me, and smiled. I knew there was no way out. I had no strength left to run, no strength left to think, no strength left to feel. So I grabbed the handle and I opened the door. When I looked inside, expecting to see dead bodies and burning flesh, I saw something that caught me by surprise. It was my laptop, the one I had thrown out of the window earlier. It was sitting on my bed. The demon walked into the room, stood at the foot of my bed, looked at me and said, "Come, you need to use this device." So I walked forward once again, as if not by my own will, sat down on my bed and picked up the computer. Nothing was open, just my desktop with the regular icons. Nothing strange. This, now that I think about it, was probably the strangest thing of all. It has been a very long time since I have spoke with a human. I was too tired to respond. I forgot how fun it was to distort your world and watch you break down in fear. Somehow I managed to say, "What do you want from me?" I could ask you the same thing. You were the one who brought me here in the first place. I was so confused, so tired, I just wanted him to kill me. "I'm not going to kill you. There's no fun in that." I knew what he was saying, and I tried to feel something, but there was no way. I was too depleted, just an empty shell. "I'm going to give you two choices now. Two very important choices." I looked at him with the most lifeless stare. "Listen closely. Your first choice is to live the rest of your days with me. I could have great fun torturing you the rest of your life." I had no response. "Or you can choose to send me to another, because I would love a change of scenery." All I could do was stare at him, and then out of nowhere, I found the strength to say, "I hate you." He smiled as I said this. He leaned down, put his face next to mine and whispered, "Make your choice, human." And suddenly, a window opened on my screen. It looked like a sort of VPN client, some kind of network that was being hosted on my computer. For some reason, the SSID was permanently seared into my memory. For a few minutes, nothing happened. I was the only one on the network. And then, out of nowhere, it pinged. A message box appeared that read, "Someone has joined the network. Would you like to welcome them?" The demon began to smile. Once again, he said, "Make your choice." I clicked the OK button. A little chat box opened up and I began to type, HELLO. Following that night, the demon that had been haunting me left my life. He vanished as soon as I sent that message, along with the computer sitting in my lap. I wanted to feel remorse for what I had done. I wanted to feel anything, but all I could do was close my eyes and sleep. When I next awoke, I looked at the clock and discovered that I had slept for 26 hours. It was the first night of sleep I'd gotten in 3 days. It's been several years since my experience with the demon, and I've been using a public computer to write these stories because I'm too afraid to do it on my own again. And it has taken me a long time to muster the courage to tell my story to the people of the world, to warn them of that demon that was still likely out there, torturing people for his own amusement, forcing them to pass him on to more people through their internet connections. Beware, he's out there somewhere, and he gives no mercy. I really wanted to include a story in this episode that is centered around the paranormal because I truly believe that the dark web is a host to all evil, whether it's living or not. And as much as I find people scarier than the paranormal, I believe that it's the people sending the paranormal. I believe it's certain people who know how to put hexes and curses on you, who know how to invite the evil spirits in, who know how to leave that door open to the other world. I had always been aware of the dark web. You hear the craziest and most fucked up stories from people who have the balls to explore it. Not me. Websites that involve human experimentation, hiring a hitman, and even watching people through their own security cameras. It's fucked up. But honestly, I'd be lying if I said oh my goodness, that has just triggered a memory in me that I actually can't believe I forgot. I'm going to pause this story because we know how I love to tell a personal story. This actually isn't about the dark web, but it is about tapping into people's cameras, which is a horrifying thought and something that has actually happened to me and my daughter. So I had some baby monitors and they were Bluetooth. So they connected to my phone via Bluetooth. I downloaded an app and that's how I would watch my daughter when she was asleep in her room. Making me sweat a little bit remembering it. So I lived in a bungalow at the time and I was in the kitchen washing up and I thought I heard a woman's voice in my house, which obviously freaked me out straight away. So I went straight to my daughter's room. No one was in there. It was a small bungalow, like I could stand in the hallway and be able to see into every room. But I did a thorough check. Nobody was there. So I thought, maybe it was my neighbours, maybe they've got their TV up high. You find excuses to make things make sense. So that's what I did. I found excuses for it. So I goes back to the kitchen. All of my doors and windows were locked. Like I knew that nobody was in the house. So I goes back to the kitchen. I start washing up and I hear a woman's voice again. And obviously I've got the tap running. I've got cutlery banging together. Like I heard it, but there's a lot of noise in front of me. So I've turned everything off again. I've gone back checking around the rooms. This time I've picked my daughter up and I'm checking around the rooms and I was really scared. It was just me and her in the house and there was nobody there. So she's still asleep. I put her back in her cot. At this point, I have now checked in wardrobes. I've checked under beds. I've checked in every bloody nook and cranny that you could imagine. I've checked it. There is no one in my house. So I've put her back in her cot. I've walked back to the kitchen, but I've not put the tap on this time. And I'm just standing in the doorway to the kitchen where I can see her room as well, and I can see into her room. And I'm just standing here and I'm watching her and I'm just waiting. And then I heard the woman's voice again. And it was quiet, and to this day I still don't know what she said. But this time I knew where it was coming from. It was coming from my little girl's bedroom. I don't even know how to explain what happened next without doing it an injustice, without really telling you how scary and fucking terrifying it was. I walked in my daughter's room and I saw the baby cam move. It was moving. And it doesn't do that automatically. It was an emotion tracker. I would manually have to move it on my phone. Somebody else was moving this camera to the angle that they wanted it. I'd heard 3 times a voice come from this camera. Obviously the cameras were thrown away straight away as soon as I realized what was going on. And I never actually contacted the manufacturer because I thought, what can they do? This is what hackers do. They know how to do this. So I just threw them away, and I've never actually used one since. Never used a baby cam since. Kind of put me off for life. But it shows you how easy it is. It really shows you how easy it is for them. And actually that's just triggered another story, which isn't a personal story, but a story that I've just remembered that I've heard about. Somebody hacking into a camera. Again, nothing to do with the dark web, but I am going to come back to this and tell you that story at the end because it is terrifying. Absolutely fucking terrifying. But anyway, let's get back to this story. I've always been aware of the dark web. You hear the craziest, most fucked up stories from people who have the balls to explore it. Websites that involve human experimentation, hiring a hitman, even watching people through their own security cameras. It's fucked up. But honestly, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't slightly interested. Now, just to point out, there is no malicious intent behind my exploration of the deep web. I was just curious to see if it really was as bad as people said it was. The first thing I stumbled upon was a website extremely centered around death, which gave me a very uneasy feeling. Yeah. So I didn't hang around that webpage very long. It takes quite a bit to freak me out, so it's safe to say I was a little surprised that I couldn't even stomach the first website I clicked on. But hey, it's not supposed to be all unicorns and rainbows, right? Next, I clicked on a website that was dedicated to watching people through security cameras. Most of the screen showed empty living rooms and patios. Well, that's terrifying, isn't it? Some of them showed oddly filled rooms, like rooms that were packed with stuffed animals and others that were eerily decorated with fucking Christmas lights and fake Santa Claus statues. Another screen showed a young woman doing yoga. That one had a lot of views. I didn't watch that one very long. Something inside me felt ill and just wrong. Like what I was doing was sickening. I shook my head, blinking away more curiosity, before I hovered my mouse over the tiny X to close the window. Right before I pressed the mouse, I saw a blue link under a black screen that said, "Proceed with caution." I bit down on my back teeth, yelling internally to leave the page. Don't click the link, it's not worth it. It could be murder. Would that make me an accomplice? What if someone was skinning an animal or some shit like that? But then again, what if it wasn't? I don't know what the hell propelled me to move my mouse away from the window, hovering it over the link instead, but that's where I ended up. My curiosity always got the best of me, and no matter how twisted my stomach felt or how strong the feeling of dread was that lingered right over my head, I had to know. I really just had to know what that link led to, or I would go crazy until I finally figured it out. So I pressed my mouse down and watched the link turn purple. I felt my mouth go dry and watched as the screen slowly loaded. The page was just comprised of a large screen, like the security camera page, only it was just one. The room was concrete. It was dark. There must have been night vision cameras or something because everything had a weird blue-green tinge, but you could tell there was little to no light. There was a dark liquid on the floor in a medium-sized puddle. I told myself it was gasoline. Don't ask me why. Movement in the far right of the screen caught my attention, and I immediately perked in my desk chair, inching my face closer to the screen of my laptop. It looked like an arm, like someone's forearm. They were standing there, not really moving, but subtly swaying, just enough to not look completely still. "Hey," I said, before shaking my head and slapping my mouth shut. Stupid. Then the person walked. They walked over towards the left of the screen. I felt my stomach knot, felt my throat tingle and tighten, bile rising in the back of my throat. I knew my mouth was open, gaping, and my eyes were wide, face screwed up into an expression of pure disgust. It was a young woman. She looked like she couldn't be older than 25 or so. Long, dark, and dirty hair was mostly in tangles, like she'd been pulling at it. Her leg was dragging, her other skinny leg doing most of the work as she limped weakly. Her head was down, looking at the floor, and the sound of her dragging her foot across the concrete echoed in my silent room. I didn't think it could get any worse. I was so fucking wrong. Suddenly, the woman raised her head, and it looked like it weighed a ton on her tiny body. I hadn't noticed it before, only barely able to make out her side profile, but now it was clear as day. She looked around, eyes watering with tears and black makeup streaming down her face. Small strands of bloody thread were entwined in her lips, messily tied, locking them together. Dark blood stained her chin, probably from where she had tried desperately to open her mouth, to scream, before realizing that she couldn't. Her dainty fingers were stained as well, the same color as the puddle on the concrete. My whole body felt weak. My stomach was sick. I tried to tell myself it was fake, that it was all a big hoax. My eyes scanned to the bottom of the screen. 5,623. 1,623 people were watching. Unable to fight it any longer, I ran straight to the bathroom, puking my insides into the toilet bowl. Everything in me felt disgusting, wrong, and twisted. Once I was finally done, I laid on the floor of the bathroom, letting the cool tiles try to soothe my burning body. My head was spinning. I kept repeating to myself over and over in my head that I shouldn't have clicked the link. I should have left. I should have closed the fucking window and told my inner curiosity to go fuck itself. Instead, I was laying on the floor, the bathroom reeking of vomit and my mind a complete mess over what the hell I just saw. Should I get the link and send it to the police? Should I call them now? My first instinct was to copy and paste the link just in case, then call the police and inform them of what was happening. Maybe they could trace the IP address or something. Maybe they would recognize the girl and know where to start looking. Maybe I could save her life. I'd feel really fucking dumb if this was all fake just to get viewers, but I wasn't about to gamble, not with what was at stake. I ignored the dizzy feeling flooding my head as I jumped up, grabbing the doorknob and twisting it a bit too harshly. When I flung the door open, my phone buzzed in my pocket, scaring the living shit out of me. I stopped mid-panic and picked it up with shaky hands. I saw my girlfriend's name and immediately slid to answer. My voice was a complete wreck, my eyes finding the screen where the girl shrunk down to the ground, the sound of her cries bouncing around the room making my body feel rigid. I had nothing left to throw up, but I felt so sick. Madeline, you're not going to believe what I just fucking saw. What? Are you okay? Have you been crying? No, I'm not okay, I answered, averting my eyes from the screen. I know you said to stay away from the dark web, but are you kidding me? Her voice went from caring to mad in a split second. I told you to stay away. You never listen to me. You never fucking do. There's a girl, I said weakly. She's trapped in some basement or something. Her mouth is like sewn together. There's blood all over her face and hands. I don't know what to do, Madeline. The woman's cries got louder, more desperate but muffled. I'm so sorry. Close it out. Clear your history and never go back there again. I'm not kidding. But should I call? No. Her voice was stern now. You don't know if it's bullshit. It's probably staged to gain disgusting viewers, apparently like yourself. People do it all the time. That's why I said it's best if you just stayed away from there. You could get yourself into a lot of trouble. I didn't say anything. Wordlessly walking over to the desk, my hand shook as I raised my mouse to the small X once more. My eyes watched the number of viewers slowly tick higher and higher before I closed the window. I felt even worse than before. We can file a report tomorrow, just in case. But for now, go to sleep and stay the fuck away. I can't believe you even went there in the first place. I didn't have the energy to argue with her. Guilt plagued my whole body, drowning me. It was all I could feel. I told her good night, that I was sorry and that I loved her before I hung up and made my way to the couch to sleep, or try to sleep. It didn't feel right even being in my bedroom or being anywhere near my computer. Not while that girl was still trapped, unable to scream for help, unable to talk at all. I know it could be fake, but was that really a risk I was willing to take? I looked up some Google searches over what was fake on the deep web and read multiple stories about staged webcam videos, which made me feel a little bit better. It didn't make the sick, guilty feeling go away though. It's safe to say that I didn't get much sleep. Every time I closed my eyes or began to drift off, I would see the woman's face, the thread laced into her lips, the blood staining her mouth, her fingers, the floor. I continued to grow more and more anxious and uneasy, deciding that maybe getting out of the house, heading over to the local CVS and picking up some melatonin might help. I threw my blanket off, slid on my shoes and grabbed the keys and wallet from my nightstand. The cool air felt amazing and did wonders to calm the whirlwind of thoughts in my head. I went to check the time, realizing I'd left my phone at home. Not a huge deal. The store was only a few minutes away from my house. I ended up buying melatonin and a stronger sleeping pill just in case that didn't work. I also got a pack of bottled water to help rehydrate me after I vomited all the contents of my stomach earlier. By the time I got home, I felt much better, which lasted about 3 seconds before I noticed that my front door was wide open. Now, I may have been in a state of shock and panic, but I never, ever leave my front door open or even unlocked. My heart immediately began to race. I got out of my car, closing the door quietly and unlocking my trunk, grabbing the crowbar that I keep there. "Who's there?" I yelled into the house, waiting for any noise. My own voice was shaking and weak. I was met with complete silence. Keeping the crowbar up and ready to strike, I walked to the couch and felt for my phone. As soon as I found it, I hit the emergency button and waited until I got hold of a 911 operator, letting her know that I think my house was just broken into. She told me police would be on their way. After checking around the house for anything odd, I decided to give my girlfriend a call, letting her know what had happened. The phone rang, and then rang some more. After getting her voicemail, I hung up, knowing she'd probably be asleep at this time. I waited about 20 minutes or so for the police to show up and walked around with them like a scared puppy as they checked every room. They ended up just having me fill out a report telling me they'll keep patrol cars in the area just in case anyone else gets hit. As they were leaving, I checked to see if Madeline had called back yet, but there wasn't any missed calls. However, I did notice several outgoing calls to her cell phone at 3:12 a.m., 3:14 a.m., 3:17 a.m., and 3:20 a.m. And then another one at 3:56, which was around the time I'd gotten home. I made my way to her back door, feeling every cell in my body burn when I saw it was wide open. My face was hot, my hands were shaking, but I stepped in, crowbar raised like a bat, ready to swing. I tried to keep my emotions at bay as I looked around her dark house. "Madeline," I called out. "Babe, are you okay?" Nothing. Silence. "Madeline!" A small scream came from her bedroom just up the stairs. My legs jerked to run as I flew up the stairs, slamming her door open. I looked at her empty bed, her empty room, confused. I heard the scream again, only this time I heard that it was coming from her computer monitor. I felt numb as I looked at the screen, noticing the same website I saw earlier. Only instead of one woman, I saw two. The first was lying on the floor, not moving, in that puddle of dark liquid. I recognized the second girl, just as I'd recognized her voice. My heart shattered as I saw her face. Streaked in blood, the same threading was sewn into her eyelids, locking them shut. Her scream hit my bones, surrounded my body. It was all I could hear. Her face was twisted in pure terror. I cried pathetically as her voice began to go out, continuing to grow weaker, and rasped. I locked my jaw, picking up my cell and dialing 911 for the second time. Only this time, it barely rang once before the deep, gravelly voice of another man answered. "You shouldn't have called." Chills shot down my body and I heard the phone thud as it hit the carpeted floor. My breath hitched in my throat as I bent to pick it up, hanging up the call and racing down the stairs. How did he do that? How did he redirect my call away from the police? I felt my heart race as I darted out of her back door in a frenzy as I sprinted to the closest house. I pounded the door, screaming at the top of my lungs until the neighbor opened it. Her face tired, confused and scared. She let me in and I explained through frantic tears what happened. I'm typing this on my phone to post as we both try to get a hold of the cops, but neither of our calls are going through, and neither is her landline. I think someone is messing with our cellular signal and they may have cut her line, but we're going to keep trying. I'm scared for me, I'm scared for my girlfriend, and I'm scared for my neighbor. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but if you don't hear from me again, please take this advice and this experience to heart. For fuck's sake, please stay away from the dark web. This next story was sent in to me from a listener, but she claims to have never ever told this story to anybody. And she also wants to know if anybody's experienced anything like this, so if you have, just pop it in the comments and let her know that she's not alone. I don't remember how I found the link, And that's the worst part. No flashy banner, no warning, just a thread buried inside another thread. A dead-end forum full of deleted users and broken images. Someone had posted, "If you're brave enough, it's live." And there was a link, so I clicked. The stream opened without a title. No chat, no view account, no buffering, just darkness. At first I thought my screen hadn't loaded properly, but then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, hollow, and echoing. They came through my speakers with a strange depth, like the sound wasn't compressed, like it was happening in the room behind me. The camera moved. A weak beam of light cut through the blackness, revealing cracked tiles and peeling paint. The walls were damp, stained with shadows that looked almost organic, the kind of building that should have been condemned decades ago. The footsteps continued. Each one echoed too long, too clean, as if the place were empty, but it didn't feel empty. The camera holder never spoke. I couldn't see their reflection in the broken mirrors we passed. No breathing, no coughing, just the steady rhythm of steps and the faint electrical buzz of whatever was recording. Then something strange happened. The camera paused in front of a doorway, and for a split second, I saw movement inside the dark room beyond. Not in front of the camera, behind it, as if something had just crossed the hallway we'd already walked through. I told myself it was a compression glitching, but the footsteps had stopped, and the silence was worse. Then, they resumed, faster. Down a staircase now, concrete steps spiraling into a basement. The sound changed, tighter, sharper, and more enclosed. The light flickered. I caught glimpses of old wiring along the ceiling. And then the room opened up, a wide basement chamber. In the center was a circular pit, roughly carved, too deliberate to be decay. An orange bulb hung from a wire above it, swinging slowly, the kind of dull, sickly glow that barely pushes back darkness. As it swayed, shadows crawled along the walls. The camera approached, slowly. The closer we got, the more the air seemed to thicken. Even through the screen, I felt it, a heaviness in my chest. Then, the camera tilted downwards. At first I thought it was rubble, then fabric, then faces, bodies. Dozens, maybe even hundreds, just layered, collapsed into each other. The orange light swung again, and I saw eyes, open and glassy, reflecting the bulb. I felt my legs weaken even though I was sitting at my desk. The camera stepped closer. I could see the host's toes now at the edge of the frame, dirty, bare and curled slightly over the lip of the pit. We were looking straight down into so many people's ending. My hands were shaking. The bulb creaked as it swung. The image wobbled, and then a sudden jolt. A sharp intake of breath, which was the first sound the host had made. And the camera tipped forward. We were falling. The image spun wildly. Orange light, black walls, flashes of unmoving faces rushing upwards, and then impact. A violent, chaotic thud. The camera landed sideways, and for a second there was only static and dust. But then the lens focused. A face stared back at me, so close I could see the cracks in the skin. Eyes open, unblinking. And just before the stream cut out, I swear, the mouth twitched. The screen went black. No error message, no recording, just my reflection staring back at me. I haven't been able to sleep properly since, because now I dream about it every night, except it's different. In the dream, I'm the one holding the camera. I can feel its weight in my hand. I hear my own footsteps echoing. I descend the stairs, I approach the pit, I step forward until my toes curl over the edge. The orange bulb swings. Below me, the bodies shift slightly, as if settling or breathing. I lean forward to get a better angle, to capture the most terrifying shot. And every single time, someone rushes up behind me. I never see them, never hear them, but I feel their hands on my back, and I fall. I wake before I hit the bottom every night. But now I can't stop thinking about something. In the original stream, the host never turned around, never fought, never braced, just fell. Was the host pushed? And if they were, who's holding the camera now? And why does it feel like something is waiting for me to go back? One of the most horrific dark web stories that I have ever heard in my life has just come back to me. To be honest, I'm not even sure I want to tell this one, but obviously I'm going to. Do you guys remember when Madeleine McCann went missing? Within a few years of that, there was another little boy who went missing who got absolutely no coverage. He was a little Portuguese boy. And nobody heard about it. You know, everyone was still at that point talking about Madeleine McCann. Nobody had heard of this little boy. Nobody was looking for this little boy. Nobody knew his face. But the Portuguese police did. And they were the only ones looking. I just can't imagine why one child gets so much coverage and another doesn't. Surely all children that go missing should get the same coverage. Surely we should be looking for all of them the same. But we weren't. We didn't know about this little boy. But there was a little boy who went missing around the same time. So the Portuguese police were looking for him, and I don't know if they intentionally found him this way or if they stumbled across him whilst looking for something else, but the police had to tap into the dark web at some point. And it was all to do with this child trafficking ring that they were trying to trace. And they found pictures on the dark web of all of the children that were trapped in this child trafficking ring. And this little boy was one of the pictures. And they had to bring his mum in to identify the picture and to confirm that it was him. And it was. And they could never trace him. Because like we say, people on the dark web know what they're doing. They know how to stay anonymous. They know how to keep their identity a secret. And that poor little boy was never found. And his poor mum knows what he's having to go through, or what he was having to go through, and there was just nothing that she could do. I kind of wish that I hadn't unlocked that memory, because I absolutely know that's going to haunt me. And before I go on that horrible, horrible note, I did promise you another story about tapping into cameras, so I am going to tell you that one before we get to the end of the episode. There was a story of a little girl whose parents thought that she had an imaginary friend, and they would sometimes hear her up in the night and she would be talking. And you know, children do wake up at night time, and sometimes they start playing, sometimes they go back to sleep, sometimes they come and get their mum and dad. This particular little girl would talk to her imaginary friend, and her parents were fine with that because it's harmless having an imaginary friend at 4 years old. And so that's what she would do most nights. And, you know, they would hear her talking, and then within the hour she's gone back to sleep. So it was never really a problem. Until one night, the mum heard the imaginary friend talk back. So she goes into her little girl's room, and she's never really questioned the imaginary friend before because of how normal it is for children to have imaginary friends. But now she's heard a man's voice. So she's gone into her daughter's bedroom. This is like early hours of the morning. And she asks her daughter who she's talking to, and her daughter says the man's name. And she's like, you know, where is he? And the daughter's like, he's here. She cannot get to the bottom of where this voice has come from. So the next night, she wakes up. And just the coincidence of this, of when she started hearing the voice, when she started to take this imaginary friend seriously, is just crazy, because one more night and the outcome would have been so different. But this particular night, she is waiting outside her daughter's bedroom for hours. It gets to about 1 o'clock in the morning, and her daughter starts to have a conversation. And there is a man's voice replying. So the mum says nothing. She opens the door a crack silently, and she peers in. And it's just her daughter. But then when the man's voice comes again, she realizes it's coming from the webcam. So this mum now knows, she has instantly clocked on that someone's tapped into her child's webcam and is watching her child, is talking to her child. Whew, so she's listening. She's not got involved just yet. She started recording on her phone because she needs something to go to the police with. So she's just listening to what goes on. The man's voice on the webcam tells the little girl, "I've got a surprise for you." And the little girl says, "What have you got for me?" You know, she's excited. This is her friend she thinks she's talking to. She speaks to him every night. He's built a relationship. He's gained her trust. He says, "I've got a present for you. Go and check behind your curtain." She goes behind her curtain and she retrieves a chocolate bar and a cup of something. And he says, "Eat your chocolate bar and then drink your drink. And then we're going to have so much fun." At this point, the mum runs in. She unplugs the cameras, she smashes it, and then she goes behind the curtain to retrieve the chocolate bar and the drink, which was there, which means he had been in their house. But that's not the worst bit. The police were called, they turn up. The mum's not even checked this chocolate bar and drink. She's kind of grabbed it, she's put it somewhere for her child to not reach, and she's called the police. The police have turned up, they took it away with them, and it turns out that that drink wasn't a drink at all. It was a cup of bleach. One more night of believing that her daughter was talking to her imaginary friend, and her daughter could have drank a cup of bleach. What 4-year-old is going to say no to a drink? Especially when they're told we're going to have so much fun after. I say it all of the time, you know, we live in a world where we do need to be overcautious. We do need to be suspicious of everybody. We do need to be a little bit rude when someone in the street asks us for help. Especially if we're alone or with a young child. We do need to say no and just keep walking. Sometimes we just have to be selfish and not worry about upsetting someone else's feelings. Yes, they might be a good person, but they also might not be a good person. So let's just keep walking. It's just such a scary time to live in, but I do think that the lid is being blown on a lot of situations like this and a lot of rings, if you get what I mean. And yeah, it's a year for reckoning this year, and we are going to know the faces of the people that do this to children. I think we pretty much already do. It's just such a scary time to live in, and I think, you know, we kind of have this preconceived, is that a word? Preconceived image in our head of what these people who do these kind of heinous crimes look like. And they're dirty and they're greasy and they look like a bad person, but it's not the case. It's the rich and the powerful and the people that we trust, the people that we're told to trust, the professionals. But thank God that's all changing. Thank God we are starting to see people for who they really are, and thank God our eyes are finally opening. We are finally coming together and we are questioning what these powerful people of the world are doing, what they're hiding. And I think the only thing more powerful than money is unity. And I think that's something we are beginning to find. And on that note, I will see you next week. And I was going to introduce next week's episode as New Homes, and I've kind of half already recorded it, but now I want to, I think I want to do a deep dive of these rich and famous people that can't be trusted. These rich and famous people that are out here to ruin lives. So maybe it'll be about that. Maybe it'll be about new homes. Maybe I'll do the rich and famous people for the next one. Who knows? It's going to be a surprise. But either way, I will see you next week. I love you. Bye.